Do you know that you're going to be on camera? So we'll just kind of the conversation as it unfolds at each table sort of thing?
You're going to be on camera.
That people are going to see you eating that popcorn. Okay.
Where you would in a coffee shop.
In a coffee shop. Brad, get in here. You chicken, get in here. Okay, we'll see how this goes. So listen, as you know, Pope Francis wrote what I think is kind of an extraordinary document to the Church, Amoris Laetitia, the Joy of Love. And so what we had envisioned here in the Archdiocese is that perhaps the Holy Father having done a global listening session, maybe we can do a local one. How do we start to address concretely and directly these issues that have come to our attention? The needs for community that people are talking about, or the difficulties that people are finding today to witness to their faith in the workplace, or the major challenges that are confronting families today and causing great havoc, foremost among them being the scourge of pornography.
I recall one of the fellows sharing about how he was watching a friend, and the friend had admitted that pornography was a part of his life, but he was watching this friend's marriage crumble, and this fellow was not able to overcome it. I don't think he realized yet by that point how bad it was. And this part of the fellow in our group, his heart was just breaking for his friend who was destroying his life, his family life, through pornography.
I'm only 26 this year, so I'm kind of the bottom end of when you can be ordained a priest, and I'm very gracious for that. Yeah, just a kid. But I grew up in locker rooms, and I grew up going to the kind of year-end parties and stuff for the sports, and guys my own age, and pornography's in the locker rooms on a regular basis, kind of among a group of men. It's in the hotel rooms on the road trips. It's at the year-end party kind of thing. It's pervaded every part of that, and I think you're speaking rightly to the fact that is the new norm, even if every instance of that is almost a peer pressure from an older sibling, or it's a peer pressure from something that they've seen on TV or whatever that source is. But a reestablishment of the norm, at least in these situations, requires a witness, and it requires someone to say, no, that's not okay, I'm not going to do that.
Which takes some courage.
It takes great courage,
some deep conviction to that.
This is that's, I think, part of the role I see as a new priest, and especially as an associate, with perhaps less of the administrative responsibilities and a lot of relational capabilities to be that source of encouragement. The Church can encourage our young men and women to be that witness in those situations. That's what stops that circle, is a Christian witness and a love for Christ.
Hey, what happens is sometimes we get prepared, we have the sacrament, and then there's not follow-up. There's nothing that seems to happen. We don't see them again. Same with the marriage preparation. They come in, they have this, whether they get something out of it or not, and then all of a sudden there's nothing. And so I think that what really a good focus could be is that we try to create some kind of community afterwards.
This message that people say they're getting, and this was from some university students at King's. They said, we're being told again and again and again that we have to create our own selves. Nothing good prior to the Enlightenment was ever said. This is the kind of things that we hear in the classroom. This being severed from roots, whether that's family roots, cultural roots, philosophical, theological, severing from tradition, in which we are normally rooted as individuals, as families, as a church, severing from real-time connections with other people. They said this is leaving us terrified because we're told that we have to create our own selves, but without reference points. How do we do this? One of the individuals at the same session said, I'm not Catholic, but I'm starting to find I'm attracted to the church precisely because you are the church, your community, you're rooted, you've got tradition, you've got a framework of meaning in which things can make sense.
I definitely feel like anxiety is at an all-time high.
And you work daily with university students,
That's
right?
Right, yeah. I'd say it's probably the number one thing that I talk to university students about would be anxiety.
Well, what did they say in terms of its source?
I think what you said hit the nail on the head of just where do they find their self-worth and where do they find their identity. feeling the pressure from whether it's external sources like their parents, or another big thing I see is just the involvement with social media. There's this perception that everyone else around me has it all together, that what's portrayed is your best self.
Yeah.
And so then it's this feeling of, well, I don't measure up to that, so what does that mean about me?
Right. And it's not, in effect, it's not measuring up to an illusion.
Exactly.
I'm comparing myself to an illusion. Holy, that's awful.
And they're going to these places looking for that sense of belonging and community.
Going to what places?
Social media.
Okay.
Online communities. And I think it temporarily gives them a sense of that, but then they're left wanting and full of anxiety because they haven't had that need for community and feeling like they belong somewhere met.
Probably it just requires a little bit more effort on behalf of the young people who are discerning as well, but I feel like there can be more support in individual parishes to give young people an idea of how to discern and what to discern. So I think, the church is so family focused because God is a family, but God doesn't call everyone to family.
Yes.
There was, when I first went into seminary, there was that worry of I'm not going to measure up. What are they going to say to me? How, and once I found mentors in the formation team and in the different guides in the seminary, and realized that a lot of these things that I had in my mind that I wouldn't measure up to were either false or were being looked at wrong in a kind of distorted way. I think role models is a key thing for community when I look back at my own discernment.
Have you given any thought to how the church can actually provide those role models? See,
I think the church provides role models. I do think they're there. I think there's a big problem with how to get people to realize that they need these role models. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't know that they need it or how to find it. I think it's there. But that's what we're always thinking about with Engaged Encounters. How do we get people to buy into this? How we want them to have what we found, but how do we convince them of that?
That sums up beautifully, I think, the whole evangelical outreach of the church. We want them to have what we have found. What's this little one's name?
Kirsten.
I think she's kind of fascinated with things, huh? Huh? Yes.
No, don't start.
I'm gonna get in trouble here. We were both talking about this one day that you would go to mass and then everybody would kind of disperse, and we saw many families similar to ours, and we thought, the hardships that we, as young families go through, we thought maybe we could try and do something about that, and we just decided, well, it's up to us, and we should just ask and see if people want to hang out. And we got kids the same age, maybe we could hang out, and that kind of blossomed into us wanting to grow deeper in our faith, and the other families too. And we thought, well, we should just have small study groups or family groups, and that way we can grow in our faith and we can become friends, and form a community.
So what difference has that been making for you? Can you put your finger on that?
Yeah, I was mentioning to Father Miguel, our youngest daughter, who's sleeping right now. She was born with some congenital heart defects, so we went through a rough year where she was in the hospital getting heart surgery, and the fruit of the groups that we started was these friends were a big support network for us, right? They took care of our kids when we needed them to, making meals for us, and just helping out. So that was huge. And prayers, lots of prayers, absolutely.
I find that community friendships help you to build on your faith and help you to keep the faith, especially now. I think you really need to be, as parents, intentional about teaching them and intentional about, and this world is so confusing that you really need to make a point. And I think that friendships, to grow their friendships, I think that is huge. you can teach them, you can tell them all you want, but if they have nobody to stay with them when they're older, you know, in the teen years, it's, you know, it's a little bit more difficult.
You know, when people drift away from the church, don't come back, or if they do come back, they don't stay for a while, what's keeping them away? And I just presume that we would start automatically talking about some of the societal hot button issues, areas of human sexuality, for example, where the church teaching is very clear, people don't agree with it, and sometimes people say that because of the disagreement they're walking away, etc., etc. And your response to me was striking. You said, well, that might be true to a point. And you said, but I think for a lot of people today, the church isn't even on the radar.
Yeah.
Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I thought, now that, I think, expresses a pretty significant challenge for us right now. And I've been repeating that in different places. And it raises the question for me, how does the church get into people's, or get on their radar, because what we've got is the gospel.
Yeah, just general friendships is the only way in, right? Is they need to know that you care about them, that you love them, and that you're generally interested in them. Maybe invite them to groups like ours, and if they want to come, then no pressure, they can come and just enjoy being with friends and family. Right?
A friendship, if it's genuine, is not going to be afraid to speak the truth either.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and so if you're good buddies with somebody, and all of a sudden and the relationship is there, it's strong and everything else, but all of a sudden you say, you know what, I think this guy's going in a direction that's just not, there's going to come a moment, right? Kind of a moment of truth, but as a friend, you're going to have to say, wait a minute, have you thought about? Has that come up for you at all? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. It has. I could think of my own cousin at one point as well, and I didn't grow up in the faith, and so a lot of my friends and family from back in the past, when I told him, I sort of talked to him about the gospel, and he's like, "What? You? What are you talking about this for?" And then we had an actual heart-to-heart conversation, and you know what? Afterwards, he thanked me, and we prayed together, and I've been giving him some books because I like to read, and I think that I can learn. People can learn lots through reading, so I gave him some books, and he liked some books that I gave him and wanted more, and so it was just a simple, like, I remember a conviction in my mind saying, "You got to say something." Like, I don't want to say anything. You know, you got to say, "I don't want to say anything," and I just said it, and then that was the first time I think I ever did that. That was a few years ago, and I was like terrified to say anything, and I did it, and it actually worked out, and I was quite surprised. So
what's beautiful about that is obviously he did not receive it as any act of judgment on your part.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
It does take a certain amount of courage, I think, and a certain amount of conviction today to kind of step out and be known for who you are as a person of faith. You're right. It doesn't have to be in your face proselytizing. Just that witness of joy and peace and a gentle invitation.